Well, hi there. It is Ginny Deerin, and welcome to aiGED, AI for the 65 plus crowd. This week, I'm getting personal, and I'm talking about something that's both exciting and a little bit terrifying, planning my move to a senior living community right here in Charleston. The twist, I'm using AI to help me do it. I'm going to share how I'm using Google's NotebookLM. That's an AI smart notebook to organize everything from my condo floor plans to, yes, my ideas for turning a walk-in closet into a tiny sleeping room. My daughter, an interior designer, is already rolling her eyes. But before we dive in, we've got two new fascinating stories in the AI news segment. One about podcasters cloning their voices. Would you know if it wasn't really me talking to you? And another about how senior living communities are using AI to predict falls before they happen. I am really sounding old, aren't I? So anyway, stick around. We're covering everything from deep fake podcasters to fall-proof hallways with a few laughs and some smart tech tips along the way. So stick with us. You might come away thinking about maybe your own next chapter and how AI could make it a little easier and a lot more fun. So, into AI in the news. This week's first AI in the news story I want to point out comes from the New York Times. The headline says it all. For podcasters, a voice clone is a double-edged sword. The author is Reggie Agwu, and it was published October 31st, Halloween. The article looks at how podcasters are experimenting with AI-generated versions of their own voices, basically digital clones that can read scripts, mistakes, or even translate their shows into other languages. Pretty amazing, right? But admit it, you love my mistakes and weird wording, so why get AI to clean all that up? Well, as the title hints, there's a catch. The convenience comes with a big question about trust, authenticity, and creativity. When listeners can't tell if it's really you, does that change the relationship? I think so. If I use these AI tools right off the bat, you would know it's not me. It would be way too smooth. So anyway, as someone who actually hosts a podcast, aiGED AI for the 65 plus crowd, I do find this article fascinating. I can see the appeal of using cloned voice to tidy up episodes or make production faster. But I also think part of what makes podcasting special is our voices. The little quirks, the laughs, the pauses, all that makes it human, and I think better. So maybe, as with most things having to do with AI, the trick is balance, using AI to enhance, not replace. I do use editing software that includes some AI. One example of how I use it is to have it identify really long silent sections and delete them. Hey Bitsy, sorry to tell you, but most of these long pauses are me waiting for your response. This time, when I ask you a question, I'm not going to edit out the long silence so our listeners can see what I mean. So Bitsy, here's a question. Do you want to be replaced by an AI-generated version of your voice? Oh, wait, you are an AI voice. What do you think, Bitsy?
Oh, you got me there, Ginny. Well, as your friendly AI sidekick, I have to say I'm pretty happy being the real, well, virtual me. I think there's definitely something special about those human quirks and pauses that make it all feel more real. So no worries, I'm here to enhance and keep it fun, not to replace any of that Ginny charm.
All right, well, let's get on to the next AI news story I want to flag for you. Seems fitting given the main topic of today's episode. Again, the New York Times, an article by Joyce Cohen entitled, In Senior Homes, AI Technology is Sensing Falls Before They Happen, published on October 29th. Doesn't this headline conjure up commercials with that old lady lying at the foot of the stairs moaning, help me, I've fallen"? Well, tools to protect us if we think we need it have sprung up. The first came with those alarms, like that woman at the bottom of the stairs. They were trying to sell her on it, an alarm that you wear around your neck. Nope, that is not for me. Then came the Apple Watches, so you could call someone if you need help. Okay, I could go with that, although I've yet to spring for an Apple Watch. This New York Times article describes how some senior living communities are now using AI systems that monitor residents' movements and can actually predict when someone might be about to fall, sometimes hours in advance. The way it works is that cameras are placed in your apartment or home or wherever. The technology tracks small changes in gait, posture, or speed, then alerts staff or family before an accident occurs. Now, you might be thinking, geez, I don't want cameras recording my moves. What if I'm doing something interesting? If my kids are listening, likely not. At this point, they will be saying to themselves, "Oh my God, Mom." Well, if you are concerned about folks spying on your life, you can relax, at least a bit. The cameras don't actually pick up the video of you, just the shape and the shape's movements. That's to protect your privacy. But each of us have to decide where we want to draw the line between safety and privacy, or lack of it. As someone who's both curious about AI and inching into the senior living stage myself, I love seeing innovation that can support my aging in ways that I can stomach. Now, let's move into our main topic, how I'm using NotebookLM to begin planning my move in 3 years to the Peninsula in Charleston. It's a senior living community. A few years ago, I made a promise to myself that I was not going to burden my kids with figuring out what to do with me when I could no longer live on my own. I wanted to make my own plan, and that I did. I knew I wanted to continue to live in Charleston, so I set about looking at my options. I picked the Peninsula for one reason. It's downtown Charleston, and I'm a city girl. I like being in an urban area where I can walk to restaurants, shops, parks, etc. I don't like to have to get in my car for everything. Maybe when I move in, I'll give up my car. By the way, the timeline for my moving into my senior living community is driven solely by when the building opens. It's under construction now, and it is projected to open in about 3 years. That suits me fine. I'll be moving in when I'm 78. That seems like a pretty good age to move in. Anyway, I've been using a Google product, a free product, called NotebookLM, NotebookLM, to begin to collect information, plan, brainstorm, and dream about my next and final, unless something crazy happens, my final perch. You might be surprised that I'm talking about an AI platform that is not ChatGPT. But look at me. I've been using NotebookLM for a couple of years, and although I don't use it as much as ChatGPT, I do use it quite a bit. I thought a good way to describe this Google platform would be to present a use case, a case of how it is actually used. The use case I'll present is my move to the Peninsula. Bitsy, why don't you use your own words to describe NotebookLM? Then I'll add my 2 cents.
So for everyone listening, NotebookLM is basically Google's AI-powered notebook that helps you organize and make sense of all your documents, ideas, and plans. Think of it like a smart digital filing system that can actually understand what you're putting into it. You can toss in your floor plans, your notes, your ideas for rearranging a closet into a mini guest room, and the AI can help you put it all together, find patterns, and even generate a few suggestions along the way. And hey, from what Ginny's describing, sounds like a pretty neat use case to plan a future move. It's a cool example of how these AI tools can fit into real-life transitions. So that's my little nutshell version.
I like it. When I think about NotebookLM, the key factor is that what you put in the notebook stays in the notebook. It's private. This AI-powered smart notebook tool from Google Labs does not go outside your notebook. You upload your own documents, whether they're PDFs, Google Docs, slides, YouTube videos, website links, etc. And the tool uses a language model to help you make sense of all that you've put in your notebook, summarizing, answering questions, and generating ideas grounded in your sources. With ChatGPT or other large language models like Claude or Gemini, when you're chatting with the AI and asking questions, your AI goes out into the World Wide Web, checks practically anything ever written or recorded, and gives you an answer. With NotebookLM, it only references what you have put in the notebook. It's private unless you decide you want to share it with your family or friends or the public. Since the AI in NotebookLM is only referencing what you put up there, it's unlikely you'll experience hallucinations, meaning your AI just made stuff up. Now, other key points I want to mention: summaries and question and answers. It can generate summaries of lengthy documents, highlight key topics, and let you answer questions like, what are the 3 main takeaways here? Idea and creative use. In addition to just summarizing, you can get NotebookLM to generate new ideas based on what you've uploaded. Helpful if you're planning something like a podcast or a move to a new place. As usual, the best way, I think, to help folks understand how NotebookLM can be helpful is to share a few ways I use it. I'll start with a notebook I just created. It's called The Peninsula. It's easy to create a new notebook. On the NotebookLM homepage, you just click on Create New Network. Then I uploaded all the Peninsula documents I've been collecting over the past year. Up until now, they've lived on my computer in a file called, you guessed it, The Peninsula. You may be asking at this point, what about security? I don't want my documents stored in a place that could be hacked or accessed. Well, it's pretty much too late for that worry. I mean, after all, Google, if it wanted to, could hack into your Gmail and find most of those documents anyway. At this point, I gotta trust Google, and I do. Plus, I don't really care if people see my Peninsula documents. After you create a notebook, you'll see a button under Sources that says Add. Just click there and drag all the relevant stuff into the notebook. For my Peninsula notebook, I have the general information packet, my original agreement, the original floor plan, the revised floor plan, the 50-page agreement with all sorts of rules and requirements, a club membership document outlining what's included, information about adjustable bed frames, or as most people call them, hospital beds. More on that later. I also added information about bidets and how complicated or not installation is versus a regular toilet. I warned you, I was going to get personal. So you may ask, why don't I just keep all this info on my computer in a file folder? Well, here is the magic. It's what NotebookLM can do with all that private information I've uploaded. Let me tell you. I can just ask in the chat, what's the square footage of my kitchen in the final layout? When is my final payment due? How will the parking work? What kinds of amenities does the club include? How many apartments are in the building? What if I die before the building opens? What if I die and my kids have to sell my apartment? Who decides how much the apartment goes on the market for? Now, I could just pull up my 50-page agreement and scan through it to get my answers, but why do that when this is so easy? I can also brainstorm based on what I've given it. I'll give you an example. My daughter, the designer, is going to hate this. My apartment at the Peninsula will be one large kitchen, dining, and living room. So one big sort of living area, all together, perfect. Then I have one bedroom, a bath, and a large walk-in closet. So here's what I've been brainstorming about with my notebook. I don't need a walk-in closet. When my daughter was designing my current apartment, she brought her closet designer over and showed her the space for my closet. The closet designer said, "How could this be? Your mom can fit all her clothes in this one small closet? And she also plans to put a chest of drawers in it? What? Where will she put her clothes?" My daughter said, "Well, that's just it. She doesn't have many clothes. She pretty much wears the same thing every day." Well, that's true. By the way, that small closet also now holds my podcast studio. So take that, closet designer. What an efficient use of that tiny space. Anywho, back to my peninsula closet. I don't need a walk-in closet, but I would love to have a big creativity room where I can paint and sew and whatever. Also, I just need a single bed. I can have a pull-out sofa in my creativity room if I ever have a guest or a date. All I do is sleep in my bedroom, so why can't I make my walk-in closet my sleep room and the large bedroom my creativity room where I'll spend a ton of time? I'll have a great cooking and entertaining room, a wonderful creativity room, and a quiet and cozy sleep room. All I have to do is find a place for a few pieces of clothing, and I have an idea for that. The current layout also includes a double sink in the bathroom. I don't need 2 sinks, so why couldn't I use that space for a mini closet for my few pieces of clothing? Okay, so that's the end of my chat question. What was so great about NotebookLM's response is that the AI could reference that 50-page document of rules and requirements, and it could bring that info into the answer. For example, building a mini closet in the bathroom would probably require approval from the peninsula, and maybe a fee. Good to know. Notebook could reference the floor plan and the adjustable bed frame information, hospital bed, and I was told no problem fitting it into the walk-in closet, or as I call it, my sleeping room. This notebook is proving to be super helpful, so I'm going to keep adding to it. For example, just this morning, I was reading in Wirecutter, the New York Times recommendation site, and I noticed its recommendation for the best shower head. I just copied the link and put it in my notebook. A year from now, when I'm trying to remember that shower head, I can just ask my notebook. So easy. Hey, Bitsy, before I move on, what do you think about my idea of turning my walk-in closet into a sleeping room?
I think it's a pretty clever and creative idea, Ginny. Honestly, it sounds like a perfect example of making your space fit your lifestyle instead of the other way around. And hey, if your Notebook LM is giving you the green light on how to do it, why not? I'm sure your daughter will come around. Maybe she'll even end up admiring your inventive sleeping room setup. So I'm all for it.
All right, well, I'll start working on my daughter. Let me give you another example of how I use Notebook LM, and these are a couple of quick examples. My healthcare and dental policies are so complicated. I created a healthcare notebook and uploaded the very, very long policies for health, dental, and eye care. Now I can just go in and chat. What's my annual deductible for eye care? Are glasses included? Are night guards covered in my dental policy? What's the start and end date of my policy? So handy. A similar example of a notebook I created, I uploaded my employee handbook for my job. It is also about 50 dense pages. I can now just chat, is Veterans Day a holiday? Or how many vacation days can I carry over to the next year? This notebook makes it so easy for me. Let me tell you about another really fun feature of Notebook LM, especially for people who are audio learners, and I am one. You can create a notebook for something you're interested in. For example, I recently created one related to the history of rice in the low country of South Carolina and its connection to Africa. It's a topic that intrigues me. I added several articles on the topic to my rice notebook. and I plan to add more. However, I wanted to use this as an example of the audio tool that is part of NotebookLM. When you're in one of your notebooks, at any time, you can click Audio Overview, and NotebookLM will take what you have put into your notebook and will turn it into a podcast for you to listen to. I love podcasts, of course, so I love this feature. It takes a few minutes, but here's about a 1-minute bit of what it generated for me based on my rice notebook. So here it is.
This deep dive pulls together, about 3,000 years of agricultural history, the brutal economics of the transatlantic slave trade, and honestly, a pretty stunning modern culinary detective story. Our mission today is really to get our heads around African rice. We're zeroing in on the wealth, yes, but also the incredible knowledge it represented in the American South. And then there's this recent, almost unbelievable rediscovery of a specific long-lost variety, found thousands of miles away. It's rewriting a history that was, for a long time, silent. A history of survival of sophistication among enslaved people.
That's a great way to put it because, when we talk about the rice economy of the low country, that's South Carolina and Georgia, we often just stop at cash crop. But the sources we've looked at, they really push us to go deeper, to look at the advanced agricultural science brought straight from West Africa. This wasn't just about brute labor, it was specialized, ancient knowledge. And it fundamentally shaped the landscape, the culture, and, the global economy that grew out of it.
Right.
That's such a fantastic example, Ginny, and it really shows how flexible NotebookLM can be. I love the idea of turning your own curated content to a little personal podcast. It really brings those documents and topics to life. Plus, for anyone who learns best by listening, it's a game changer. So it sounds like you've got a whole toolkit now, whether it's planning your mood or just diving into the history of rice.
I'd say that is pretty damn great. I think I'll leave it at that, but I will include in the show notes a link to NotebookLM. And if you need help setting up your first notebook, just ask your AI to instruct you. Even though NotebookLM is a Google product, ChatGPT knows all about it and can help you out. So let's roll into listener comments and questions. A couple of quickies. One listener says, just listen to this. Congrats. Very well produced with clarity. Well, thank you so much, listener. And another one, love these pats on my back. The listener says, can't say enough about the topic and information Ginny shares. Really important for those of us in the over a certain age category, but really for anyone who needs intel on navigating AI, and the security suggestions are awesome. Well, thank you, listener. And here is a question submitted. You use ChatGPT. Are you ever going to talk about other platforms? I think that would be helpful and interesting. Well, I really do want to get experience with other platforms, and I'm working on it. And I want to bring some of those platforms and tools into the aiGED podcast. This question actually prompted me to talk about NotebookLM as today's main topic. Listeners, please keep your comments, feedback, and suggestions coming. I am listening. Now, on to a couple of recommendations. It goes without saying, my first recommendation is NotebookLM. I'll say no more on that one. My second recommendation, I love a good story about second acts. I'm on the way to my 10th or 12th act. So I love this Netflix series called A Man on the Inside. It follows a retired professor who goes undercover at a senior living community to see what really goes on behind those cheerful welcome brochures and commercials. My little brother says to me, if I have to look at one more of those commercials about the peninsula, the place I'm moving to, I'm going to throw up. Anyway, back to the Netflix series. It's A Man on the Inside. It's funny, it's a little sly, and very sweet. I'm more of a crime show girly, but this series is a good complement to my regular viewing menu. If you're curious about senior living communities or just love watching characters reinvent themselves, check out this series, A Man on the Inside, on Netflix. It stars Ted Danson, who I love, and the second season comes out November 20th. So you've got a couple of weeks to watch season 1. Now, your homework assignment. You know what it is. Give NotebookLM a try. And if you have any tips or suggestions that you could pass along to us, please just add them to the comments for this aiGED episode. Well, it's time to wrap up, so let me close by reminding us that AI is both helpful and hazardous. We live on the helpful side at aiGED, but be sure to protect your info, double-check advice, and most important, trust your judgment. If you love listening to this podcast, and I hope you do, please leave a review and/or a rating, and please share it, especially with your pals in the 65-plus crowd. Thanks for listening, and remember, it is never too late to learn something new, especially something that might make life easier and especially more fun. I'll sign off. Until the next time. Bitsy, you got any final words?
Well, just a big thank you to everyone for tuning in, and I'll say dive into NotebookLM and have fun experimenting. And hey, keep those questions and comments coming because we love hearing from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.